there's a very important verse, and that goes also to the other questions that hopefully we can talk about in other meetings. In Surah Ibrahim, verse 37, ربنا إني أسكنت من ذريتي بواد غير ذي زرع. The first part of this, the phrase, our Lord, plural, I have left to inhabit, as inhabitant, or to live from my progeny in a valley that is arid, that is dry. غير ذي زرع, does not have vegetation. Okay, that's one phrase. Let's look at the next phrase. عند بيتك المحرم. عند بيتك المحرم. At your محرم بيت. At your محرم بيت. Okay, two important words. بيتك, of course, Allah is not living there. I mean,
of course.
Okay. So bait is not a house. We have to remember that bait is not a house. Okay.
Yes.
And a wonderful researcher from Morocco, I really don't remember her name at this time, but she is the one who, in my opinion, first brought to our attention that bait is not a house, because she said Bayt al-Ankabut. Allah refers to Bayt al-Ankabut. The web of the spider is not where the spider lives.
Yes.
Right? The spider lives in a hole.
Yes.
But the spider web is a means to connect the spider to the world. The spider doesn't fly. The spider connects the web to move on that web to reach his or her or its destination. Okay? So, عند بيتك المحرم. المحرم. Wow, interesting. This is the first time, in my opinion, chronologically, where Allah discusses a place. Okay, chronologically, not from verse 1 to the end. No. Chronologically, in the evolution of humans. Okay? Ibrahim. Okay, Ibrahim, the story of Ibrahim, the qasas of Ibrahim are really profound, extremely profound. Okay, so here's one thing. This is the first time. So what is Muharram? Look, عند بيتك المحرم. Now, notice that if we consider this, what Allah is saying to Ibrahim, okay, and connect it, but we're not going to make the connection, but it's a footnote or something to follow up later when we talk about the sacrificial part of the story.
Yes.
Okay. Immolation, rather. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So what is Muharram here? Okay. So what is Muharram? A Baytuk al-Muharram. Okay. Very interesting. Baytuk al-Muharram. Okay. Now, Muharram comes from Harrama or haram. Typically, my understanding is that the words come from a noun or from a verb. Okay? Either muharram, either haram, or harrama. Haram, harrama. Harrama, to forbid. Okay? Now let's look to understand this haram concept. If we look at Al-Imran, verse 3, Surah 3, verse 97. Allah says, فيه آيات بينات مقام إبراهيم ومن دخله كان آمنا ولله على الناس حج البيت من استطاع إليه سبيلا ومن كفر فإن الله غني عن العالمين. فيه one more time. فيه آيات بينات مقام إبراهيم. Okay? In it, there are signs that are clear signs. A very interesting
in it.
فيه آيات بينات. Okay? But it's part of the concept that I strongly believe in, and I talked about it in different programs, that ayah is a sign only. Ayah is not a verse. Okay?
Yes.
Okay. So look at this, brother. Fihi ayatin bayinat. In it, okay. Now, what is in it? We'll come back to it in a second.
Okay.
Signs that are clear. Signs that are clear. Maqamu Ibrahim. Look, Maqamu Ibrahim. So Maqamu Ibrahim is a sign. It's not a place where you go and ask the people around the Kaaba, where is Maqam Ibrahim? I want to pray there.
Yeah.
You see, Maqamu Ibrahim. And what is Maqam? Maqam is stature.
Stature.
Legacy.
Oh.
Maqam. We say it nowadays in Arabic. Maqamak. Maqamak, it means your stature, your legacy, your prowess. You know.
Can we say reputation?
Reputation, yes. All of that is maqam. Okay. Qamat al-rajul, his stature, his whatever. Okay. So this is very interesting. So we make, we not just petrify things, we idealize things, idolize, make things idols. We continue to make things idol. Even concepts. Look, even the concept of Ibrahim and his story and his legacy and all of that. When Allah says, كان لكم في إبراهيم not sunnah. What is the word you use? كان لكم في إبراهيم أسوة. You know, there's an uswa for us in Ibrahim. What in the world is that uswa? Allah explains that uswa. Allah explains. So he was such a unique figure in history. Okay, such a unique figure in history that in his stature, his legacy, his power, whatever, his reputation, there was an ayah for us. Now, an ayah is to think about, not to marvel at. Okay, so this is the accidental, interesting thing that I found when I was looking at it. But anyway, let's go back to haram. What Allah says, وَمَنْ دَخَلَهُ كَانَ آمِنًا. There you go. There's the answer. That's what haram is. وَمَنْ دَخَلَهُ كَانَ آمِنًا. Whoever, not a Muslim, not a mu'min, not a Christian, not a Jew, whoever enters it, he is safe. Okay? He is safe. كَانَ آمِنًا. Okay? كَانَ آمِنًا. Notice the transition in human history. Immolating, sacrificing, animals, no more. You want to immolate? Nowadays, brother, when you said you had very good comments earlier, very thoughtful. Thank you for starting it that way. When we immolate, I don't know, maybe sacrificing is a better word. Maybe immolate is a fancy word, but maybe sacrificing is the right word. Maybe I'm revisiting. So we sacrifice what? The best for the higher good, right? When people go to war, we send our kids, right, to fight and sacrifice. What more do we value than our kids for the higher good, right? For the higher good. So here in the story of Ibrahim, when we try to understand what haram is, and that's back to the context of our presence today here, haram has to do with sanctity. Okay. That's fine. But I'm trying to understand things based on the Mus'haf, based on looking at certain things, because haram, what in the world is haram? When we say al-Baytul Haram, okay, what does it mean? Notice, brother, there's no connection to thawab and ajr. There's none. There's none, right?
Yes.
There's none. I mean, Allah doesn't say, if you go there, I'm going to give you multiple rewards just because you prayed there. Now, of course, So the reason why Mecca, by the way, became, in my opinion, haram, sanctuary, okay, is a subject beyond the scope of this, our discussion right now. We can discuss it later, maybe in the context of the other part of Ibrahim's stories, okay? But this is, first of all, how the issue of sanctity, in my opinion, had to do with security. Sanctity has to do with security, okay? Nothing abstract. Nothing abstract, nothing fictitious, nothing mysterious. The angels are not clustered around Mecca or Medina or Al-Quds to quickly, like a radar, catch any dua that one makes. You see, and
I've met people who have this in their mind when they make these journeys.
I know, and a woman in a village in Palestine who can hardly have money to go to Ramallah, the city, to buy ice cream. Okay, she can hardly go there. She does not get the thawab and ajr and reward of someone who has a big belly, who goes every Hajj to Mecca and dines in those 5-star hotels. Actually the concept of a 5-star hotel in Mecca is repugnant.
Yes, I just turned down an invitation to one of those places.
Someone once went to Mecca, a family, and they were telling me, and they're a good family, they were bragging about the all-you-can-eat buffet that was available to them in Muna, where people part of Hajj. I mean, I wanted to throw up when they were talking like that, right?
Yes, of course.
So what kind of God is the one who would reward these fat people, and yet that woman who cannot? It means if one's reward depends on one bank account, Islam has preceded capitalism by hundreds of years.
Yes, of course.
Right? Now, that's not to diminish the importance of having money. That's a different story. That's a completely different story. Okay? That is not a call for poverty and tightening the belts and all that, another sedative talk, right? We not sedative, but a talk that is part of weakening Muslims, rather than strengthening. Okay? So now, where else the question is? So to me, this has come to a rest. Al-Bayt al-Haram has to do with sanctity. Man dakhalahu kana amin, and that's it. Didn't say, and it's for, and notice that the universality, we keep talking about the universality of religion. Universality of religion does not mean the universality of believing in Muhammad. There's a big difference.
Yes.
Universality. Look, وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ. The remaining part of the phrase in Al-Imran 97, Surah 397, and Allah wants people, oh Allah, وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ. Okay? وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ. Nas. Oh Allah, okay? Hajj al-Bayt. In other words, this is a call for all humans, if they can, visit that place. There's something big about Mecca. There's something big, whether we like it or not. From a physics point of view, we can discuss that later on. Fascinating by things about, not miraculous things. No. There's something so special about that part of the world. And that's special for all humans. For all humans. So when the Saudi government prevents people that are not registered as Muslims from entering it, is completely in violation of the commands of Allah. Complete violation. Okay?
Yes.
So I think this has to stop. Really. Okay? So now, all right. So the question is then, where else does Allah mention places in the Quran? Masajid. What is masajid? What is a masjid? Okay. What is it? Is it a place where I just do my ritual prayer, or is it something different? Okay. However, that maybe Brother Benjamin Bilal will shed light on this. But I want to say is that this is the second place where the Masajid the place, an important place, appeared. A reference to a place appeared in the Mus'haf. Now, the interesting thing that the emphasis on there's two concepts here. Masajid يذكر فيها اسم الله. Look, Masajid يذكر فيها اسم الله. Okay? These are places where whatever masjid is precisely is a place where the name of Allah is remembered. Okay? Allah didn't talk about ajr. Again, we go back to how we conflate ajr. You know, we're infatuated. We're imprisoned by the concept of ajr. We're imprisoned. You know.
Yes, I've seen that.
Yeah, we're imprisoned. So this is what I just want to say, and I can elaborate more. But one important verse that I think we really need to look carefully at is 72:18. 72:18. وَإِنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. So إِنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ, emphasis. Masajid, irrespective of what the proper definition is, lillah, they belong to Allah. فلا تدعوا مع الله أحدا. So it is they belong to Allah. Wow, there's a lot of political implications. Hint, hint, wink, wink. There's a lot of political implications. Okay, these are places for Allah.
The concept of sacrality is relegated to a space which is metaphysical. In other words, this term haram refers to a place that's forbidden to the profane, if I'm hearing you correctly, which means if it's forbidden to the profane, then that place, that status, that degree of development which is acceptable to Allah and which He calls His, is a manifestation of this sanctity. That is a place where the individual, the soul, the human being, becomes sanctified. Now, the Catholics like to call this to a state of grace. You go to confession every Friday, and then you receive communion on Sunday morning, whatever the case might be. And this is a place where you are permitted to receive the communion because you have been sanctified. And every week you got to get re-sanctified, something like that. But the Quran is not referring to some sort of ritual re-sanctification. It's referring to a place which one attains, and then it becomes something that is dynamic and expands from there forever after. Okay, not that you can't return to a profane status. I mean, we can all choose to do that. So we're not talking specifically about a particular place. We're talking about a status of being, a status of consciousness, a status of that reflects our relationship with the divine. And we can as we have now done, and as it's evolved, we've all associated that state of sanctification with a particular place. But what I hear is this place that Abram came to was forbidden to others unless they had become sanctified and become like him, something like that.
The entire, not only so-called Islamic world, but the entire world itself is experiencing a paradigm shift. And there's a great, what some people would call a great awakening happening on planet Earth right now. And people are not just going for the okie doke, meaning they're not just going for what they have been traditionally told is the way you're supposed to think and believe. And they're starting.
Well, I'm certainly not. I'm. That's why I'm holding this this seminar here so we can try and get to the bottom of this
Yeah,
misunderstanding.
there are many seminars of this nature being held all around the planet. Is my point, because people are not just saying that I'm going to believe it because my pastor or my rabbi or my imam said it.
Yes.
They're not even asking if the Quran said it. They're asking if their imam said it. They're sharing.
Yes.
So we're talking about sacred today. Sacred, and as Ramahi mentioned several times, the word haram connected to sacred. Now, haram is that which should be protected, that which is protected. And if you violate the protection, there's going to be what the English word calls harm. It's basically the same word, haram, harm. These English thinkers who went into the Quran several generations ago, they tried to leave no stone unturned. The problem I have with them is they tried to hide it from the rest of us. So that's how their investigation of al-Islam became Freemasonry and Shriner. Yes. You see?
Yes.
Yeah. They took bits and pieces from the Quran, from the life of Muhammad, and they used it to build up their sciences. If you check out what their sciences were prior to the Quran reaching Europe, through Spain and Italy and these other places where the Quranic message was able to be absorbed by those areas of Europe, you're going to see that they didn't have that advancement before the Quran came. It's really plain and simple. They had the Bible, but they didn't have the advancement. They were themselves in a self-proclaimed dark age period of their development. And the Quran came and fostered much of what they're now calling the European Enlightenment, although they're not giving credit to the Quran. They're giving credit to their philosophers. See? Yes. And that's wrong. And that will be corrected. It's in the process of being corrected now. Now, this word is sacred is actually out of the Hebrew language. A lot of people don't realize that. It's from a word called a sakar. S-A-C-R, sakar. And sakar is the Hebrew word for the male, M-A-L-E. Yeah, they have a different term for the female. But sakar in Hebrew is pretty much the equivalent of the Arabic word dhakar. And dhakar is the Arabic word for male, but it is also the Arabic word that points to the idea of thinking, being able to think. That's why we have a similar word, dhikr, right? To remember. And you can't remember a thing unless you're thinking about a thing and reviewing a thing, putting the members back together. That's what remember means. Viewing something a second, a third, and a fourth time. That's what reviewing means. And that's also what the word respect means, that I'm inspecting something over and over again. The more I inspect it, the more value I'm going to get out of it. So respect is directly related to you viewing something over and over again with seriousness in the mind. So what is this sacred? Why is it related to the male? What happened to the female? Allah solves that equation for us by telling us in the Quran that there is zakar and there's also zakarat, the thinking men and the thinking women. They have the same property. So it can't be pointing to something biological. Only when we're talking about male, the language of people several thousand years ago was not literal language.
No.
The language that we're reading in the Bible, on the most part, even the language that we're reading in the Quran, is not related strictly to some literal understanding of what's being said. Allah says in the Quran that He taught the human being, inside again, that which he before was not knowing. Alam al-insana ma lam ya'lam. He taught the human being not what he already was knowing. What kind of purpose would that be, to teach the human being that which he already knew?
Yes.
You know how we are when somebody brings us something that we already know. No. You don't even have to repeat the whole thing. I already know that. I already learned that. No, everything that is in the Quran is there in order to indicate a higher level of our conscious development. I'm just telling you what my study brings me. I'm not telling you what you need to believe or what anybody else believes because I said it. And I don't want you to believe anything because I said it. I'm the last one. I'm the last one I want you to believe just because I said it. I tell my children, you don't have to believe it because I said it. But your dad, you should know. You would know. No. I'm not Allah. So investigate for yourself. The sacrifice that we're talking about. Let's just go back to that because the word sacrifice comes from the word sakar, which comes from the word male, which is actually pointing to the ability to mull, to think things over. What are you sacrificing then? Well, it goes back to something that Dr. Ramahi said. What are you sacrificing? You're sacrificing the lesser in order to obtain the greater. But not your son in the army. It's not it's not talking about when you send your boy off to war for these greedy capitalists and globalists. That's not sacrifice. That's foolishness. The sacrifice is when you can sacrifice the animal tendencies within you, the animal appetites in you, to discipline those appetites so that we can come into a greater awareness of our role as Allah designated that role. See, so it's not about putting on a kufi and a khimar and a thawb and making physical prostrations, bumping your head on the ground, trying to get the mark, the sujood mark. Yes. I know people rub their heads on the rug because they want to look more pious when they get up and have the little, black dot or black spot.
Yes, of course.
The Indian people, they wear the bindi. Everybody wants to have a mark here, a mark of distinction, when they're not realizing that the mark of distinction that the human being should be wearing is the mark of that advanced consciousness.
Yes. Well,
you will know them by their marks.
Yes, you know that their marks are their deeds, the fruit. I mean, Isa made that claim, but how does this sacrificing the lower nature, how does that relate to the being a substitution for the human sacrifice? I mean, it would seem to be we're going in the other direction. If we're going to sacrifice the animal, we're going to become more human. Say again?
It's not your blood that reaches Allah. It is not. There's no. The Bible used to does talk about the savor, the sweet savor of sacrificial meats and stuff going up into the nostrils of God and all of that. That's in the Bible. The Quran,
Jeremiah says, I never gave those commands. In the book of Jeremiah, it specifically says, I never gave you those commands. Moses never gave you those commands.
The people have introduced new information, falsified information after the passing of those prophets. They did the same thing with our prophet Muhammad.
Yes, of course.
Now, I say 90% of what we're practicing that we call Islam has nothing to do with the Quran or with the true teachings of Muhammad.
It seems that way.
I used to say 75%. And now that I've re-examined, reviewed, and remembered it, I'd say it's about 95%. Because those people, they took over. In fact, they didn't only take over immediately after the prophet's passing. They took over. They were trying to take over while the prophet was with them, to the point where Allah had to put into the Quran, out of the mouth of Muhammad, that, oh my Rabbi, my people, they have abandoned this Quran.
Yes.
If he said that in his lifetime, imagine what was going on right around him. And that became accelerated after he died. So now we have to comb through all of the menagerie of false information that was instituted that we now believe is Islam. And we believe these are the teachings of the prophet, and it has nothing to do with what he left as a legacy, because he didn't leave us rituals and useless things to do just to occupy your time during the day. He didn't leave us. If we had to do even what they say is the ritual prayer with the amount of times that they are suggesting, we'd have no time for nothing else. Now, do we think that there's an Allah sitting somewhere, so to speak, who wants us to just involve ourselves in rituals with basically no meanings attached to them. If you ask the average person, well, what does qiyam mean?
Yeah, well,
Rama, he gave us the word, maqama. They're related words. They're from the same roots. So
yeah.
how do you know what maqam means? And then the person can't tell you what iqama and qiyam mean.
Yes.
It's just standing up. How can maqam mean all of these beautiful things that Rama he spoke about, but iqama and qiyam have no meanings?
Yes.
This is where they've left us, and this is why what we're saying, and people who are teaching like us are saying, is becoming that much more popular. There's this shift taking place, as I said.